Well, with the inaugural events officially getting underway, the list of Democratic lawmakers boycotting President-elect Trump's swearing-in ceremony is seemingly growing by the hour. At last count, 68 House Democrats plan to skip tomorrow's festivities. That's more than one-third of the entire caucus. President Obama refusing to comment on the controversy yesterday during his final news conference.
With respect to the inauguration, I'm not going to comment on those issues. All I know is I'm going to be there. So is Michelle. And I have been checking the weather, and I'm heartened by the fact that it won't be as cold as my first inauguration.
Meantime, Vice President-elect Mike Pence was on special report last night, urging Democrats to give the president-elect a chance.
While we respect the opinions of every American and their right to express their opinions, I hope those folks will turn an attentive ear to the president-elect's words in that inaugural address and give us a chance, as I think they'll see in a President Donald Trump someone who really is going to work every single day to make this country great for every American.
You go back to that moment yesterday when the President Barack Obama refused to comment on the 68 Democrats, a number that has been growing, not going to the inaugural festivities. Did he miss an opportunity to urge fellow Democrats to attend?
He clearly missed an opportunity, and the following is not a partisan observation. This just sucks. I mean, seriously. It's part of the endless blood feud in Washington. I mean, you think the next time a Democratic president is inaugurated, that there won't be dozens of Republican members of Congress will discover they have to clean out their sock drawers. And, you know, it's one thing for Democrats to
Let me jump in, Howie, because here is the plane making its arrival in Washington. The president-elect is on board that plane. He took off a short time ago from New York City, and it is wheels down momentarily for President-elect Donald Trump. And there you have it.
Well, just to pick up the point as we follow the plane landing in D.C., it's one thing for Democrats to dig in and fight President Trump on his policies. This is disrespectful to a core American tradition, peaceful transfer of power, and it really makes me uncomfortable.
And it is amazing, Julie, as you do see this and take in this moment. It is a historical moment. Donald Trump just took off from New York City, from Trump Tower, on his way to Washington a day before the inauguration, and still we're looking at this massive divide. These 68 Democrats who say they won't attend. Your thoughts on that?
You know, I think it's no secret that I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump and Washington.
That is not a secret.
I said that is not a secret.
That's right. I know.
But I agree largely with what Howie said. If I were in Congress, I would take this opportunity to say we have a new president. We may not be happy about the outcome, some of us, but nevertheless, he is the president of the United States. And you owe it to the Republic, not to your party, but you owe it to the Republic to show up and, as a member of Congress, participate in this peaceful transfer of power. And, you know, I think John Lewis is an American icon, but I don't agree with what he said about the president's legitimacy, the president-elect's legitimacy. He got elected. We're not happy about it, obviously, as Democrats, but he did get elected. And so I think it's incumbent on those people who are serving in a co-equal branch of government to show that they agree with the fact that we have a peaceful transfer of power. You're right, Howie. They should show up. I have some friends who are in the House who are not showing up. I've spoken to them about this privately. And
what did you say to them?
I told them my view. I said, I think it's incumbent on you as an elected official, as a congressperson of the nation, not as a Democratic elected official, but as a elected official who represents the United States of America.
What did they say back? Not naming names. I hate him. I can't go.
They just said they don't. You know, they're not going to participate. They don't think it's legitimate. But that's the point.
They think it's good politics for their side, playing to their base.
And I think it's bad. You know what? I also think it's bad politics, by the way. Not just this is. First of all, I think it's the right thing to do to show up. I also think it's bad politics because you pointed this out. Take the moral high ground. At least show that you're going to participate in this transfer of power, and then go ahead and trash them on policy. There'll be plenty of opportunities. Tomorrow is not the opportunity to do that.
That's one of the things Peter King was saying yesterday, right? You know, he said by being there, you kind of sit there and you say, guess what? I'm here. You're here. I'm going to fight you every step of the way, but I'm in this game with you.
Exactly right.
He also said that in order to get there, they're warning them, you know, he's got to leave his house at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's going to be a huge pain in the neck. I wonder how many representatives are like, I'm going to skip this. I'm going to make a political statement. It's also going to be a heck of a lot lot easier to stay home.
You know, it's interesting to see the way the president-elect himself has reacted to this. In an interview on Fox News with Ainsley Earhart, he sort of brushed it off with humor. And he said, well, I hope that we get their tickets because we need more tickets.
Yeah.
As we do see him landing in Washington. We're about 24 hours away from his swearing in, taking the oath to be the 45th president. Megan?
Yeah, two quick things. I can always be counted on to bring this to the cynical place. A lot of these low-level Congress people, it's a great way to get publicity. A lot of people that aren't on cable news that often, it's a great way to get their name out, let their base know that they're going to be a hardcore partisan hack for their entire Trump administration. Some of these people, I don't really, I mean, I've heard of them, but I'm not totally familiar with their careers. No offense to any of your friends, Julie.
You've heard of some of these, I'm sure, but yeah.
But some of them are pretty low-level Congress people that don't get a lot of publicity that often. And if you're joining this, 68 people, maybe you're going to be part of some weird band of brothers that's just never going to give the other side a chance to speak at all. When watching Donald Trump's plane land right now, you can't help but think of when he came down the stairs at Trump Tower,
the escalator,
50 blocks away, and what a joke it was to so many people who did not take it seriously, who continued to not take him seriously.
Including people in our profession.
Including people in our profession. And I keep thinking of what I read yesterday, that he, in 2012, when Romney lost, the day after, trademarked Make America Great Again. So you've got to give it up to the brilliance of this man that took a long time for me to come around to as well, and that he definitely saw a vacuum in this country, a group of people who weren't being spoken for, who felt abandoned by the Obama administration. And I'm curious to see how history will reflect on this. Yeah. And will there be any game change-esque nasty books written on this? Because this has been a very open campaign, an open election season that have been widely reported on.
Imagine how much more outrage there would be in the press if 68 Republican congressmen decided to boycott Barack Obama's inauguration in 2009. It would be the issue, and it hasn't been that way in terms of the coverage of this.
And by the way, just some stats on those 68 Democrats that will not be attending. 16 of them are from California. House Democrats skipping the inauguration are from 26 different states. 66% of those not attending are from states that Clinton won.
I mean, it's interesting to watch this. You brought up the escalator moment, because I think that's something that we can all remember. I remember where I was at that moment, because Melania came down the escalator and looked fantastic. That's what struck me. I can say that as a woman. But 99.9% of people who watched that never thought we would see this day. One of the few is, I think, Melania herself, who said, oh, no, she didn't want him to run because she thought he would win. And she knew how much it would change their lives. I saw that in an interview, which is interesting.
For some of us, this is still very surreal, watching a plane with the United States of America on it, and Donald Trump sitting in it.
You'll notice the difference here. This is not Donald Trump's private plane anymore. Right. This is a military plane that has landed at Joint Base Andrews, Washington, D.C., one day, almost 24 hours to the minute before Donald J. Trump will be sworn in as our 45th president. This is an amazing shot that we've got right here. You are looking at this plane landing live with the president-elect. We'll watch for him to walk out of that plane, but what a moment in history, Megan.
Yeah, and his first dance is going to be to I Did It My Way by Frank Sinatra, and what a more fitting song I certainly couldn't come up with. Well, and you know what I will say, the real silver lining for me in all of this is the cleansing it's been for all the political strategists, especially in the Republican Party, and I could name a few, but I don't want to get in trouble on television, who really have no business running campaigns and working on campaigns anymore, just taking a bunch of money from vulnerable candidates and then blowing it and not being able to go anywhere. And those people, luckily, I doubt they will have a future or career in politics. And I like that it has been, like I said, cleansing is really the right word. A lot of people for a long time that I particularly thought were, quite frankly, hacks. And I'm glad that they're not going to be working on campaigns in 2020 anymore. And as you look at the countdown clock, Howie, less than 24 hours to go until the swearing in, things that we know. Chief Justice John Roberts will be administering the oath tomorrow. Mr. Trump will be resting his hand, as we now know, on two different Bibles, one he's had since childhood that his mother gave him, and the Lincoln Bible. But one thing we haven't talked about is that we know that there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people there at the inauguration, but there will be many protests happening as well.
And it wouldn't be a Trump show if there weren't protesters and a march and all of that. I mean, Donald Trump, people forget, ran against the Republican establishment as much as he did running against the Democrats. He had never been in politics before. I mean, we now are starting to take this for granted, but it's remarkable what he pulled off. And yet, at the same time, there are people who, not just in the Democratic Party, who are having trouble coming to grips with the fact that he is going to be the president for the next 4 years.